I think as you joined, I texted you, so you can ignore it.
Okay. You're all set.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Southborough Board of Health meeting on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. All board members are present and this meeting is virtual only. Our first order of business is public comment. If anybody has anything they'd like to say, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. All right, so this meeting is really to touch base with the parties involved with Ken's sound testing. So I'm going to turn it over to Bill or David to give us an update on how the testing went and where you're at with your results.
Okay, I'll start. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so David and Mark got together with the abutters. We got out there. I'll let David run through exactly what was done and the timing. Heather came out and was there for part of it as well. There were quite a few bugs, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. And the neighbors were very cooperative, which was great. David's been working on the results and pulling that together while Mark's been away. I know he shared it with Mark and he can tell you they're having a meeting again this week. I think it was very positive what they found out, in pursuit of the wall that we were suggesting. Again, I'll let David talk to you about that. And he and Mark need to go through the data that they pulled together and we were able to get, as well as the modeling that they're working on. I wanted to have this meeting because I didn't want to lose potential to chat, give you an update, and maintain a plan moving forward. I appreciate you having the meeting today. I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks. So it would be nice if in a couple of weeks we could have another meeting after David and Mark have worked together to possibly fully address the modeling, put together the full report for you guys, and come back to you with a consensus. Okay. If there's not a consensus, we probably need to know at that next meeting. I'm anticipating that there is, because it appears that there's been a lot of collaboration and people have been working to address the issue. So with that, I will hand it over to David. But if we could, at the end of the meeting, maybe schedule a meeting that first week I come back so that we can then present to you what we found, hopefully as a consensus, and then follow forward with designing it from an engineering standpoint so that we can get it to the planning board in a fashion. Okay. So with that, I'll turn it over to David.
Bill, you were breaking up quite a bit. I don't know if others could hear that.
Them.
All right. Anyway, I think I caught most of that. So, and we don't need to necessarily spend a lot of time on this, because Mark just got back from vacation. So he's kind of, just getting back into, the work life. But we did speak for quite a bit yesterday. And as Bill mentioned, we're going to have a screen sharing meeting this Friday. Anyway, but I think we're in good shape. But the testing on site, it's something that often you don't have the luxury of doing, but it was really informative because we were able to do detailed frequency-based measurements at every receiver location, meaning the candidate residential locations, as well as these benchmark locations up close to the facility that are necessary for after a noise barrier is in place to actually measure its performance accurately. So we did all that. And the testing at each site was really interesting and direct and simple because it involved the 20 reefers in their proposed location on and then off. And so immediately adjacent samples, frequency based, and you can see the 50 hertz peak associated with the reefers really at every residential location. And if you remember, that was kind of something that we were questioning whether or not, because of the distance involved, would we be able to actually measure that at those distances? And so, so that was a good thing. We were able to measure that, and that gives us really quantitative information. I've done on my end. I've pretty much completed analysis and modeling and so on. But we'll wait to hear back from Mark when we get together on Friday, because to give him a chance to get back up to speed on this. But things are looking good. I think we have some really surgical, laser focused data that you often don't necessarily have on this type of project, and it has very clear results. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Safter and Nancy, do you have any questions for David?
I do not.
I don't at this time.
Okay, I have a few, David, if you have questions.
Yeah, of course.
So when we talked last about setting up the testing timing, were you able to get reads on the noise at the 8 o'clock time frame, or did you have to wait until 1 a.m. to get?
Oh, great question. Yeah, great question. So, again, some of this was speculation at the time, because we weren't sure whether it kind of gets back to what I was saying a minute ago about what will we be able to actually detect this low frequency sound, measure it under ambient conditions and the distance involved. And the answer is yes. We were at 8 p.m. I think it probably went beyond that, actually. Yeah, it did obviously go beyond that, because we had to go from site to site, to receiver location to receiver location. And we could have stayed up later, but it just would have showed the same thing, basically with the ambient dropping a little bit more late into the night. So yeah, that all worked out. And it would have been, if you remember, that what we were speculating about at the last meeting was, say ambient levels were so high that we couldn't measure the reefer noise at that distance. We might then have to call an audible on site and say, okay, let's go get a lot of coffee and come back in a few hours. But we didn't have to do that, fortunately.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And when you and Mark do whatever you guys do with modeling and that kind of thing, are you going to take your data and do a model that would reflect the wall that you're proposing and the original wall that Mark had in his documentation?
Well, the answer to the question is that modeling either wall at this point is fairly light lifting, because all the heavy lifting is already done in the model has topography, elevation contours, and all sorts of stuff in there, so that it's pretty easy to move walls around. But the crux of the issue, if you remember, was that Mark was concerned about the potential for idling trucks and truck, we'll call them pass-bys, as they circuit the perimeter of the parking lot and leave the facility. And the concern that he had was, what type of contribution are those, would those noises be making to the overall noise exposure in the neighborhood? So we did a whole bunch of testing to quantitatively determine those contributions. And I'll, in fairness to Mark, I'll hold off and getting into those results. But yeah, but it's very straightforward to very straightforward the wall around in the model.
Okay, great. So are you anticipating, so I know the planning board has a deadline of September 1st, I thought, for the design of the wall. So where are we at in terms of timeline? And I just want to make sure that we when we pick a date that we're cognizant of any deadlines. When we pick a date that we're cognizant of any deadlines that need to be met.
Yeah, Chelsea, if I could jump in, Bill Pizzell.
Sure.
Yeah, I looked at it. The dates run from the 20, after the 21-day appeal period.
Okay,
On September 19th for us to approve a wall, and we have 30 days after that to file it, which would be 10/19. Obviously, we don't want to wait till 10/19 because we'd like to get this approved by the planning board in their September meeting so that we could start construction before winter. So that's kind of why I'm trying to push this along a little faster than I normally would.
okay.
And, I guess preliminarily, I mean, I know Mark wanted to wait until, Dave would want to wait until Mark reviewed everything and commented. But Mark, I think your findings from our perspective, and we'll have to wait for Mark to corroborate this, is that the idling and the pass-bys, you don't really hear them up there. And the wall against the perimeter wouldn't be appropriate. I mean, it's not worthwhile to build it because you have a much better effect on the refrigeration units closer to it. The other thing too is I just want to remind everybody that we
Bill, I can't hear you.
at the top end of the noise, the potential noise.
Sorry, Bill, can you just repeat the beginning of that?
I'll leave
I think
that,
you cut out.
and that gives you an idea.
Sorry, Bill, can you just repeat the beginning of that?
All
I
right.
think you cut out. Sorry.
On the timing, or
No, the last sentence.
I lost you there now. On the time,
Just the last sentence.
Chelsea?
Yeah. Just the last sentence.
All right, the last sentence.
Yeah.
That I don't even remember what the last sentence was, but on timing we have some time.
Okay. Okay.
But I want to move it along if we can.
Okay. And we want to be available with us to engage. Heather, did you?
I had a question for David because I was there for some of the testing, and I don't know if you heard, but one of the abutters, one of the receiver locations we went to when we spoke with the resident, noted hearing noise in the middle of the night, potentially backing up of trucks, which I guess would be a bit more of the, potential. I'm not sure of the exact location of it, but that resident noted not so much the low frequency, but noted trucks backing in the middle of the night. So I just was asking, it sounded like you guys did test for other noises.
Well, so that was Eastbrook. That was the Eastbrook location, which is really, nominally probably the closest receiver location to the northwest, right? And the comment, if I recall, and Jim was there on site too, so he could corroborate this, but I think her comment was that she didn't really, for whatever reason, wasn't really bothered by the reefer noise, or didn't really call that out per se, but did mention backup bells, of trucks, and which is a different animal. Obviously, it's like a higher frequency sound that we haven't heard other people talk about. I think the takeaway, and I don't think we heard any of that while we were doing the testing, right? You were there, Heather. So right? You were there, Heather. So I think the takeaway though is that anything like that would be behind the wall, behind the noise barrier. So in fact, just this is getting into the technical weeds a bit, but high frequency sounds are easily mitigated. Noise barriers have are really effective at high frequencies, and they get less effective at lower frequencies. So if we're getting good reduction at low frequencies, we're gonna get really good reduction. Does that answer your question?
Bill, I just muted you because we're getting a lot of feedback when you unmute. So I didn't,
Thank
so that's why I muted you, sorry.
Should I be muting myself, Chelsea?
No, you seem to be fine. It's just when Bill comes off mute, I don't know, I'm getting feedback from him.
Yeah,
Is everybody else?
okay.
Okay. Okay, before we, Safter and Nancy, anything that you thought of during that discussion? Okay.
No, I have not come up
No.
with any.
Okay, so before we pick another date, is there anybody in the attendees that would like to comment at this time? Okay. So should we try to schedule a beginning of September meeting? That kind of sounds like that's the direction that we're headed in. September 6th, we cannot meet because it's election day. So my guess is that we should probably try to find another day that we can meet. I don't think we want to wait until the second week of September unless that makes sense, David.
Is it possible that we can meet that last week or the second to last week of August? Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, the week of the
Mark?
29th. Nancy and Safdar, what does that look like for you?
Let me just, I should have my calendar and I don't. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay, sure.
I'm here that week and I can probably be a little flexible. Can do Monday morning that week as well. If the 29th works better for folks as opposed to the Tuesday.
Okay. Kids aren't in school yet, so I just need to, I can figure something out, but
Are we talking about the August 30th?
yes, August
Gotcha.
29th or 30th. August
Yeah.
29th or 30th.
Yeah, I am back the week of the 23rd, so even if you want to, that, I think,
I can do most days the week before. The week before works as well for me, if it works for other folks as well.
My schedule ends the 26th of August. So, I mean, I could just request something that
What do you look like on the 23rd, Nancy?
I'm free the 23rd.
You want to do the 23rd then?
Sure.
David, does that give you and Mark enough time?
I would think so, unless there's something, really surprising that comes up, I would think so. But
All right, so let's do the 23rd at 9:30.
I have to be remote though, if that's okay that week.
I do too,
Okay. All right. Good. Okay.
so that's fine.
Okay.
So that'll be
So let's
virtual.
do virtual, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for saying that, Safdar, because I forgot.
And we're still doing the 16th. I mean, I'm off. It doesn't matter. I just want to.
I'm
Let
available.
me see how
Mhm.
much we have to cover on the 16th, and if there's not a ton, I'll combine them for the 23rd.
and
Wanna
I'm not available for the 16th.
No, that's fine. That's our
Okay.
regular meeting.
Oh,
That's
gotcha.
what we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
All right.
Yeah. So that's fine. So we'll do, we'll do the 23rd for sure. And then I'll touch base with Heather and Taylor and Barbara and see if we need the 16th or not.
Okay.
And then we don't have to meet twice if we can combine it into one meeting.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. David, Bill, and Jim, thank you for joining. Is there anything else that you need from us?
nope, I think we're all
Great.
set then. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
All right. And we only have one other item on the agenda. And I put this on there because, as you know, Heather and I have been working with the Burroughs Group on some studies for public health. And I think the concern that I had was that the funding mechanism for doing any sort of staffing study would have to come from the local level, and it was probably more than what we had anticipated it would be. So I was thinking we could put a placeholder on the fall town meeting warrant article for funding for this. Now, we haven't gone out to bid. We haven't gone through the process. I don't have a number yet. It would just truly be a placeholder on the warrant for now until we kind of do our due diligence, but I wanted to bring it to you before we requested that. And then in the meantime, last week, I believe the House passed a bill to look at public health staffing at the state level, meaning for local towns and regional groups. So now obviously, if we can get it through the state, I would rather go with the state funded option. I don't know how they're going to fund it. I don't know if the towns are still going to be responsible for funding it, but we're going to be required to do. There's not enough information. And I think it's going to the Senate this week, and Heather and Taylor, I'm sure, can keep me honest here.
I think it's on, I think it passed in Senate and it's on Governor Baker.
Right, it's on Governor Baker.
It's on Governor Baker. Okay, so
Yeah.
it did pass. Okay. So I think there's still more to come on that. So what I don't want to do is raise taxes and not use it, even though we would return the money if we didn't need it. But then on the other side, if it's not funded, then we'd have to wait for annual town meeting and we couldn't spend it until next July. So here's my thought, if you are okay with this, is go talk to advisory about how to proceed here, because I think this is something that they have been asking us to do. And I think we've been trying to figure out how the state's going to move forward with their state ARPA money. And now obviously with this coming out, like I don't want to be ahead of the game to then be paying for something that could have gotten paid 6 months later, right? So I would rather kind of everybody be on the same page with how to proceed with this. And I don't want to raise taxes and not spend the money. So that's my thought. I don't know what you both think.
So my
That's
only is the state with this funding. I read a little bit about it. They haven't earmarked it like specifically personnel versus anything. It's just basic for your local board of health, right? It's not how it is up to our discretion.
So this particular bill is separate from the state ARPA money. And and the way I read it is that they're looking at 351 towns having individual staffing, and is that the best use? And are you getting the most out of your staffing for the breadth of things that the Board of Health is responsible for? That's how I read it. So I actually think that this particular bill is related to how you should be structured and how you should be using your local versus regional resources.
So we don't have a dollar amount like.
No.
Okay.
No, I wanted to talk to you before I went any further. I just didn't feel comfortable doing any more work on this without you guys knowing.
And
so no, I don't have a number.
And there's no way, this is not something that we could use ARPA funds for then. Or
I mean,
could we?
and we had the ARPA committee, they did their work. Is this something that, if something doesn't get spent out of what the selectmen have agreed to, maybe. It's definitely an avenue, Safdar. I think most of the ARPA money is accounted for, I guess.
And then the other is the opiate settlement, which we don't know about yet, right? So there's definitely funds coming through that. I don't know if there's been any movement on that.
I believe that Heather, Sarah Castle, fire department have worked on a plan, but I don't know.
Right.
I think most of the year one is accounted for, but So I think there's just balls up in the air that we don't know the answers to yet. And I just want to make sure we make the right strategic decision on, do we want to put a placeholder in and we can always pull it? Or do you want me to go talk to advisory and say, here are our options? You know, I think the state is, I think everybody across the state's struggling with the same thing. So I'm hoping that they're going to help us kind of guide us through this. And, but I just don't know what they're going to fund and what they're not going to fund.
And what do you think? Oh, sorry, Heather, go ahead.
Just in terms of what we're talking about, well, for one, the opiate settlement money is specific. So I don't think that would apply to a staffing study. You know, when I met with a group virtually with Northborough and the boroughs and the folks in sort of the local regional health office that oversee our public health excellence grant, they were certainly talking about you know, the bill and having studies done for staffing on a local level. Nothing was, you know, nothing's concrete yet, so not specific or not for sure here, but they were definitely saying that part of that would be a very granular look at staffing in terms of Southborough, for example, has so many food establishments and they should be inspected so often, and you need a food inspection, you know, 20 hours a week. You know, it sounded like they were going to do some kind of specific granular look at staffing, but that's all.
Isn't it ultimately though up to the town what kind of staffing they want? Like
For sure,
Yeah.
but they were
the
going to
state
make
is-
kind of recommendations based on size and establishments about
This is just recommendation.
recommended.
Mhm.
Okay. They're not mandating we downsize or anything like that. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, and I also, it's kind of like what they're looking at for like dispatches in towns, right? Like, they're not going to be giving as much funding for local single dispatches as they will be for regional dispatches going forward. So it may be a recommendation, and then there's things that go along with that. I'm just guessing, Nancy, because we're seeing that happen on
Correct.
that side.
This is
I gotta say that you what we're dealing with now at the hospital is we no longer have an operator at Marlborough. Everything goes through Worcester. It's been a disaster. It's literally been a disaster with this. I don't know if it's similar to dispatching where you're trying to, I'm not a fan. I think it just leads to a lot of complicated, like
Confusion.
dire issues. You know, you're trying to code and you know, it's just, and maybe it just because it's new, like kinks need to be worked out, but some of this regionalizing is just scary to me. I got to be honest with you. When you've, you know, got a hospital, there's no one at the desk. People are walking in. We don't know if they've got knives, guns, and there's nobody to, it's craziness. So I know that's not really the same thing going on, but a lot of it is just scary to me. I just think it leaves a lot of room for error. The whole dispatch thing.
So what do you want to do?
I mean, no one likes to turn away money. So, I mean, I think, you know, it's worth looking into, but I also think we fought so hard to have our staff the way it is. I don't want to mess with that either. So I don't know. And as you know, I'm not the money gal on the board. So,
I mean, I agree. I don't want to give up a free study either. And I don't want to, you know, do it and then have it come out a couple of months later that we could have done it through the state. So that's why I'm hesitant to do it.
So, I mean, what's the harm in a placeholder? I guess is my
There
question.
isn't.
yeah,
There isn't.
that's a good point, Seth.
Yeah, it doesn't
I mean, we
force
can
you
always-
into using money from the town if we hear something from the state in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to have it figured out before we actually go to fall town meeting. So fall town meeting's October 13th. So if we can pull it, even if it's printed in the warrant, we can pull it after it's printed. That's fine. I just don't want to ask for the money on October 13th and raise taxes and then not need it. Because then you're already raising the taxes and you don't need it. I know we wouldn't spend it. So there's no harm in keeping the placeholder. We just need to figure out what the state's going to do before October 13th.
Because you're saying if we don't use it, we can give it back to the town. So that's almost
Yeah.
like returning the taxes, right? That people.
But
are
you
not-
already collected them from people. So you collect $5 from everyone, right? Because you think you're going to need whatever,
Yeah.
$100,000, right? So you take it from them, and then it just goes back into the general fund as free cash, and it would go towards your starting point of next year. So you're just collecting taxes ahead of time, essentially.
How much
Which
are
I
we looking
would
at?
prefer not to, but
Sorry, how much are we
that's-
looking at as a sum?
I don't have a number yet. Heather, I don't know if you have a better idea. I mean, I think there's different components
Got
to,
that menu, we got that menu from the group that we met with, and it really depends on how, detailed do we want them to help us? Look at staffing, look at the makeup of a board, elected versus not elected. So the range is, maybe 5,000 to 40,000. I mean,
I
just is
think
sort of
that we can
we wanted.
be, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm cutting out.
No.
I think that we could definitely,
Chelsea, you keep breaking up. We didn't hear what you said. Did you hear me, Chelsea?
no, sorry, go ahead, Taylor.
Oh, we didn't hear what you said. You broke up.
Yeah, I think my connection's unstable for a second. No, I was just gonna say, we can figure out I think we can get a closer number between now and the end of August. So we can always put a placeholder in. And we can monitor what's going on with the state.
I agree. I think that makes Nancy.
No, Nancy's frozen.
Must be a South
A
brother.
lot broken up for me right now. I didn't know what Chelsea said. But I think the placeholder idea is a good idea until we see how
Okay.
much money this is.
Okay. So I'm going to make a motion that the Board of Health put a placeholder in for a Board of Health study for the fall town meeting. And we'll continue to monitor what's happening at the state and come up with a firm number on the request.
I second the motion and vote aye, Sacco.
And I vote aye, Medina.
And Malinowski's aye. Okay, so we have our regularly scheduled meeting on the 16th, which I hope we can combine with the 23rd. So I'll talk to the team and get back to you. And then we have our hearing and regular meeting in September on September 19th.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, and the 23rd will be remote and the 19th will be in person.
Okay, yep.
Okay, awesome. Anybody have anything else? Okay, any other public comment? Okay, I move that we adjourn at 10:06.
I second and vote aye.
Second the motion and vote aye, Sacco.
Okay.
All right, Malinowski's aye.
All right.
Have a great day,